Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
And today we are talking about the first 2 episodes of Loki. But before we get into that, we are brought to you by Kapow Comics, located in Sherwood, Arkansas at 4047 East Kill Avenue. And of course, they have, as Daniel alluded to, they have comics, collectibles, graphic novels, and even special guest appearances. I know one of the ones they've announced recently is David Yost, the original Blue Ranger from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers television show. So it's pretty cool. So go check those guys out, and they would love to have your business, and we would love to see you guys in there. Daniel,
support local comic shops. We don't have enough of them.
We really don't.
Go away
really
too often. Support
them. We're going to talk about Loki's episode 1 and 2 today. I know that this is something that, you know, when they were announcing in Disney Plus X amount of years ago and during these investor meetings and all that stuff, Loki, especially when that trailer dropped, it's been one of your most anticipated and one of my most anticipated. So I'm excited.
No, I mean, I remember when we were talking about WandaVision and to me, I think Tom Hiddleston is he's in the upper echelon league of just quality actors in the MCU. There's a ton of them, but then I feel like Tom Hiddleston, and I'd probably put, Elizabeth Olsen in there, but they're just a bit better. I don't know. They just kind of own the screen. And for me, Tom Hiddleston steals every scene he's ever in. In every Avengers movie and all of them, he is the best, usually the best part of every scene he's in. And to get an entire show of this with Owen Wilson and this great back and forth, just buddy cop / it's wonderful. I'm so happy with the show so far. The only part I'm sad with is only 6 episodes and we're already 2 into it. That is going to be sad, but man, not speaking totally to episode 2 yet. And, we were seeing these headlines and stuff about how it's going to have drastic impact on the, wide range of the MCU universe. It definitely is. I feel like living up to that promise so far. If, the kind of threads that it is pulling are going to be, seen to fruition.
Yeah, no, I mean, you mentioned probably my favorite aspect of the show so far, which is Owen Wilson. And of course, Tom Hiddleston is an amazing actor and he doesn't, I feel like he's not in enough things. I feel like oh, Tom Hiddleston's in this. And that's great. I'm talking more blockbuster here, but Kong Skull Island, he's done that. And I really enjoyed him, that movie. And I wish he would be in more things that are bigger, that, that he had his own other franchises besides Loki, just because I enjoy the actor so much.
Listen, I think he could do a great Bond.
He could.
I know he's had rumors of it. I think he would do a really good Bond.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let me paint you a picture real quick, Daniel, so we can kind of tee up our viewers. And I'm sure if they've watched the show, they know it, and if they haven't, then they'll kind of understand where the show's going.
Why are you here if you're watching the show?
Exactly. But last time we saw Loki in the MCU feature films was in the beginning of Avengers Endgame, and he is killed by Thanos after trying to kill Thanos after acquiring one of the Infinity Stones. And then we know that the last time we see him is in the time travel moment when the Avengers go back in time to also full spoilers ahead for Loki episodes 1 and 2 and for Endgame and X, Y, and Z.
Of course.
Again, why are you here?
Why would you be here if
why are you here?
Did not know that or were already caught up? Come on.
Yeah, 100%. So the Avengers go back in time to 2012 during the New York incident to get the Tesseract and bring it back to stop Thanos' snap, right? And during this moment, they accidentally lose the Tesseract. And while Loki's in chains, he grabs the Tesseract and they botch that particular part of the mission. And ever since then, there has been numerous articles and YouTube videos and theories, even amongst us, about what happened to Loki. Where did Loki go? That's a thread that they ignored. And we knew better that they didn't ignore it. It was just a story for another time, as they say. And we obviously, Kevin Feige and them announced that they were having the show Loki, and they were going to explain exactly what happened to this version of Loki. And here we are now. So we know that the first episode starts off with Loki being captured.
They started off with that scene.
Right. You're
They
right.
actually started off with the scene from Endgame and
Right.
showing that happening. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we know that Loki is teleported using the Tesseract to the desert, and he is picked up by the TVA, the Time Variance Authority. And there we are brought, basically the first episode is understanding who the TVA is, how the multiverse, at least how it's kept in check, and basically the overarching arc for what we think the show will be about. So Daniel,
Yeah, I mean, we introduced the timekeepers and
right.
And I mean obviously I think the core of the show was Loki's character development and kind of taking this 2012 Loki from Avengers and catching him up to kind of the more fully rounded, more anti-hero Loki that we had at the end of Thor Ragnarok, right? And I think it did a fantastic job of that. I mean, I think again that you're right. The Owen Wilson and his chemistry is it's gold. I just want to watch them in scenes together forever, kind of. You know what I mean? Like it's just Loki's ego mixed with Owen Wilson's like sarcasm and just like not taking almost feels like he's never taking anything seriously. Like it just works so well. But yeah, I mean the scenes with Loki when he's watching, when he sits down with Mobius and they're like recapping his life and, I just, the questions that Mobius was even asking him and like trying to dig deep into Loki's motivations just felt so poignant and real to me. Like it just felt like, oh, this is a show that's really like taking a character and like sitting down and having like real world questions, not just like, oh, well, why are you so evil? It just is like, why are you doing this? Why are you hurting people? What, do you like this? Like, it just is like, it's like therapy questions. Like, this is seriously like the kind of questions you get asked in therapy, and to kind of break down Loki's own idea of himself, to realize, just to have that, even that moment of just kind of self-realization that was at the end of the episode when he kind of talks about, it's a tactic used by the weak to, scare the strong or whatever he says, man. It just, to me, it just hit on every cylinder. It really did. Like, I loved it. I loved episode 1 so much.
Yeah. I mean, I did too. I mean, it was a great character study into the character itself. I mean, like you said earlier, Loki, he's never been the main character in a show, and he's always been in scenes, mainly prevalent throughout the Thor movies more than anything. And it was interesting, definitely, if like they put themselves in a position where Loki had, up until this point in the MCU, went through at least a character arc where he seemed more compassionate. You see more about him caring about his mother, his brother, and we got all that character development in condensed into one episode. It is. But I still think that this, at the end of the day, this Loki is still different than the Loki that we had in Endgame, and I think that that's an important thing going forward, especially for Owen Wilson or Mobius's character. And no, it's interesting. I think it's,
I agree.
think it's great. But I do want to let's talk about some big hitting things here, because WandaVision, even Endgame, opened up a whole hornet's nest. WandaVision seemed like it broke it up even more. Falcon Winter Soldier is very much grounded and didn't really ask these big picture questions. But Loki seems like they're tackling this thing. I feel like we learned more in Loki in the first episode than we did almost in terms of the state of the universe than the whole thing of WandaVision.
No, I mean, Loki feels like it is directly setting up the main arc of the next, at least. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be just the next phase or or just the next, kind of saga, because the Infinity Saga was 3 phases. So, I mean, this show, though, it feels like, especially once we get to episode 2 directly, is explaining almost in layman's terms how all this works, right? And I think it's kind of brilliant in that way, too, that they're kind of positioning it in kind of this, like, white-collar, cubicle style office, like, and then this is what controls the timeline, right? And so they just make it almost like dry, like just kind of cut and dry. Oh yeah, this is just how it works, and blah 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 blah. And I think it it makes it really, to me, easy to understand. Like, obviously, there's still a lot of mystery. Like, are the timekeepers still alive? Or what's their deal? You know what I mean? But yeah, I feel like it's like a very smart, intelligent way to get us into this idea of multiverses and what created that or started that or what they are or what is the one single, honestly, it's kind of starting to really explain the can of worms that Endgame opened with time travel. You know what I mean? And
no, you're right. Let's dive a little deeper here. So the way, at least how I took it, and I feel like I took it, how they literally explained it to us, was that the universe either was in chaos, multiple different universes, X, Y, and Z, and these timekeepers basically brought it down to one universe, right? So we have the prime, and we can call it the prime universe just to make things simple here. And what do they call it? The sacred
timeline?
Yeah, so we can call it that. Since that's what they're used, that's what we'll use. The sacred timeline. And from that, we have different events happening where different branches are happening, much like the Avengers creating branch realities from taking the time stones and all that.
Just like the master, the ancient one shows Hulk in Endgame, where she's like, if you do this splinters off into a new timeline. Yeah.
And so basically the TVAs, their job is to keep in the timekeepers, at least the timekeepers' view of how things should play out, at least, or not even how their view should play out, the safest possibility. That way their existence doesn't break in total, I guess, would be the better way to put about it, maybe.
Sure.
And so Owen Wilson is basically a detective, and he's a cop, and he is trying to figure out these time variances, and Loki being one of them, and put things back in order. And immediately there's all kinds of things that start happening that are at least troublesome, in terms of, not even troublesome, but like open up a can of worms. And you said one earlier, are the timekeepers even around? Are they alive? Are they the ones actually that created this? And because I think Loki may have mentioned this in episode 2, or even Owen Wilson asked the judge in episode 1, like, what's their will, like, or what are they up to, or where are they at? And she just kind of like brushes off, like, I know what they want or need, or all these other kind of things. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm paraphrasing here, but it's very much like, to me, that's a thing that will absolutely be at least answered in some form. That kind of thing. Also, the way that it was kind of broken down in Endgame was that the Infinity Stones are, if they were removed from the timeline, then it starts creating branch realities, and they have to be returned to keep the timeline intact. But then you have Infinity Stones brought up as paperweights, right?
Yeah.
And those seem like variances of Infinity Stones.
Well, so, you're absolutely right. It kind of contradicts what even the Ancient One said in a weird way, right? Like, it's like, oh, but does it? And even I feel like, obviously, we know that big things are happening. I mean, even, WandaVision still seeded ideas of multiverse reality stuff, even if it, kind of boned us, if you catch my drift. Ralph boned us, might I say. But it, Bastards. And we know that she's showing up again in Doctor Strange 2, which is the multiverse of madness. There it is. And I mean, Doctor Strange is the keeper of the time stone. He went forward in time in Infinity War to watch the various possible outcomes of the Infinity War, right? Like, obviously, he's got to have some idea of these guys, I would think. Like, Doctor Strange can't be oblivious to the TVA, to the timekeepers, or whatever, at least some idea of what's going on. And again, that just means, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some kind of direct reference to him at some point in the show, whether that's kind of like a stinger at the end, which I could totally see happening, or like Doctor Strange arriving at the aftermath of whatever goes down, or whatever this looks like. I don't know. It's to me, this is the most exciting show, because to me, it is playing into so many of the other things we've seen so far. And so much of what we're excited. I mean, even Spider-Man No Way Home, right? Like, the idea of multiple Peter Parkers, the idea of, we know that, Doc Ock is coming. Like, it can't not connect to that stuff. There's just almost impossible for the show not to. And that is so exciting. Like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, yes, this feels like we're finally putting like rubber to the road in terms of all these exciting ideas we've been talking about. This is like the beginning. This is the kinder that's going to start the flame, right? Like this is really where it's going to kick off. And yeah, I'm so excited for where it's going because I have no clue, to be honest. Like I feel like this is almost the biggest mystery at the same time of like, I really don't know. I mean, I've done just a slight bit of research into some of these characters and comic stuff, but like Marvel deviates from that stuff so frequently anyway to do their own thing. I'm just like, I have no idea how this is going to end up or what's going to be the ultimate consequences of it.
Well, I'll tell you right now what it's going to be, Daniel. And I've been saying it almost every episode for about a year now, and I'm gonna say it again. Just based on alone, when Miss Minutes, who I love, is describing the multiverse and the chaoticness of it and its potential break if this gets too out of hand. I mean, the last Secret Wars we had in the comics was directly involved with the multiverses imploding on themselves. And they were imploding on themselves, and it ended up where Doctor Doom takes a handful of people and basically makes a battle world, and he becomes the king of it. And these other characters, we have multiple Thors, we have Marvel Zombies, we have all these other things, and they are basically unaware of previous histories. And some characters do know, and they have to kind of basically iron out this new universe and basically be reborn, right? And obviously it's a mechanism to restart your universe and combine other things for a comic standpoint. But again, I've been saying this for a while. I mean, if again, we were boned with Ralph Boner and WandaVision, that would have been the perfect first setup there. We just need to start calling
that Bonered. If we get bait and switched in anything now, we're like, oh man, fuck, Warner Brothers bonered us
you're right,
on Superman or whatever. You know what? That's just going to be the new verb for that.
Yeah, it should
starting
be.
Now.
And this was
so I say it, so shall it be.
Right. So we know that before casting announcements ahead of time, like you said, Doc Ock, and obviously there's fire situation with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Spider-Man No Way Home. There's different versions, right? And we know that now officially, like in order of like it coming out to our houses, Loki has different variations of Loki. So now we know that a multiverse, that this is actually how it can work, where there's different versions of characters. Right. So for me, it's all leading to Secret Wars. It's all leading to Tony's return for one movie, to all these other cool things.
Of course it will.
And anyway, that's the big picture stuff. But before we get there, I think we kind of hit the head on the nail here in terms of what episode 1's all about. I don't know.
It's okay.
And nail on the head. And this episode's great, and it has a great cinematography, great style.
I mean, you mentioned Seven as a rep, it feels like the color palette of Seven inside the TVA. And I do want to shout out the music. Whatever the theme music is, it is gorgeous, and it has this like wonderful like synthy like almost like sci-fi video, like the way it almost sounds like one of those old like the old like UFO noises they used to do like in like old like 50s UFO like movies and stuff, alien movies, but it's got a pitch to it, and it's just beautiful. When they've used it both times in each episode, it's just been like, shit, that is a unique sounding and just kind of really gorgeous theme music. Sorry.
Before we get into, no, it's great. I agree with you. Before we get into episode 2, is there any like standout moments, or at least one standout moment that you really loved that we hadn't talked about? Mine obviously was Loki's realization that the Infinity Stones mean nothing here, and that his hierarchy in the universe is greatly diminished compared to what he thought it was. That was a standout moment for me. What stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I mentioned him kind of watching himself on that, but I honestly, when he watches Thanos kill him, and it like goes die, and he laughs and like says "glorious purpose," and just kind of that ironic like, I'm a dumbass, kind of like, I can't even believe I thought I had glorious purpose, kind of thing. Like, I just thought that was such a great moment of like self realization and kind of self-honesty that, again, I mean, like even in Loki's journey, in the prime timeline, the sacred timeline, he rarely had those kinds of moments where he was just kind of honest with himself, and it kind of took us movies and everything to get there. But yeah, I just loved that moment. I thought, it just was great.
Yeah, and the title of the episode is Glorious Purpose.
Yes. Yes.
But before we get into episode 2, I do want to take a small section here out of the podcast and give a shout out to our friends over at the Geek Squared Show. They've prepared a little trailer for us, and if you haven't, go check them out. And here's a little sneak peek of them right now.
Hey, you, listen here for a minute. I'm Tilly.
And I'm Emma.
And we have a podcast called The Geek Squared Show.
We are 2 cousins and lifelong friends who geek out over popular movies, TV shows, video games, pretty much anything goes. It's the show where we talk about the things that we talk about.
Do you like taking deep dives into the conspiracy theories of your favorite movies?
Tilly's got you covered. Do you ever think about how real-life events inspire your favorite stories?
Does art imitate life, or does life imitate art?
Do you also like video games and musicals? Those are all me.
We release new episodes every Monday, so you can start your week off with something nice.
You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just look up The Geek Squared Show, all spelled out, no numbers.
We are 8 eyes,
4 brain cells,
2 cousins,
and 1 amazing podcast.
Thank you for watching with your ears, and enjoy the rest of your podcast.
Have a great day.
And we're back again. If you haven't, go check out the Geek Squared Show. They're really cool people, and they have a great podcast. Go check them out, give them a listen, and tell them we sent you. Anyway, let's talk about episode 2 of Loki. It is called The Variant, and we were teased at the end of episode 1 that the big bad of the show would be a variation of Loki himself. Obviously, there was some interesting setup there because Loki was in at the end of episode 1. This variant was in like a cloak and shrouded in mystery, and
they didn't show the face, and so there was obviously something of a twist on it. Yeah.
Right, and it's one thing, like everyone kind of blew up the internet like this big twist and stuff, and for me, I didn't think for one second this was a twist or anything out of the norm, that it ended up being a female version of Loki. Just because, I didn't
know it would be the female, but I knew it was going to be some alternate version, to Loki. I mean, they had already set that up kind of in discussions earlier in the episode about like certain characters looking different in different timelines or being different. And so, I mean, the fact that it was a female, I think is cool. It's interesting. I know I did a little, like, I get into some like really light comic research on female Loki, and it sounds cool. Like, it all sounds really interesting. And I'm interested in how it will all, play out. But yeah, I mean, like, this episode was good. It definitely had a different kind of pacing almost to the other one. Him just kind of sitting around at the desk and talking to Miss Minutes as she like jumped around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was obviously kind of the whole episode. We're kind of trying to, we are, as well as like the TVA, trying to kind of discern what is Loki really doing? Is he really trying to help us? Is he really trying to betray? What is, he's here to help supposedly, but he keeps, stalling or, whatever he's doing. But yeah, I mean, the crux of the episode obviously is the end, and what happens at the end with female Loki setting off the bombs in the timeline. I mean, everything builds to that, and that's the payoff, and it's really cool, really great payoff.
Yeah, I mean, and no pun intended, it adds a ticking clock to the season now, right? We know that there's going to be multiple different timelines could be branching off, and that the sacred timeline is reaching a potential critical mass here before things get fucked up, right?
Right.
But no, you brought up a thing there about pacing. Like, I really enjoyed it, and I'm really glad we had it. But there was something here that was a little off for me compared to episode 1, and I think part of it was just, even though I love Owen, or at least Mobius and Loki's back and forth, it kind of felt like they were hitting some similar beats that we had in episode 1. That was kind of like, I already get your dynamic and your relationship, and I'd kind of wish we'd already decided, is Loki helping or is he not helping? Because it kind of had this like back and forth here of like even Mobius almost changing his like not opinions, but like, I want you to come, I don't want you to come, and it was just kind of like, I don't know. There was something there that was kind of throwing me off a little bit, and I was kind of like, oh, I feel like we did this first episode. Like I want to get to the meatier things.
Yeah, I know. I see what you mean. There was a little bit of redundancy maybe in conversation. I agree. But I think again, once we got to the payoff and once you saw that sacred timeline and all the splits kind of coming off of it, like it was just like that payoff was so cool and is like inspired so much excitement for whatever comes next that it's like I kind of was able to forgive all that and really like love the episode as a whole because of that, I think.
Yeah.
But I agree.
Well, I was gonna say I think part of my problem is, and this is a good problem to have, is my issues with Falcon Winter Soldier, in which some of the pacing kind of felt different because I'm very impatient, no pun intended, with
right.
I want more, and I don't want to wait to the next episode, and I want answers and I want big picture things to be happening. I think part of it because we had so much big picture stuff in that first episode, but I think going back and when you have the ability to watch it episode 1 through 6 in one big thing, it probably feels.
I agree.
Probably feels much, much better than how it did this last week.
And I'm not worried about, because this show is already not doing what Falcon and Winter Soldier's problem, which was focus. Falcon and Winter Soldier was trying to focus on 5 different kind of narrative threads that were all central to the show. And this feels very much like one focus. It's Loki and the timeline, and that's kind of the whole focus of the show and the consequences of that. I think, do we want to get into some speculation?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say just big picture things, and you kind of hit on the head here. Is they're trying to find out where this other variant Loki is, and what their objective is, and they're kind of setting traps. Our Loki is being mischievous and maybe potentially messing with the TVA or not. Mobius is meeting with the judge, who I feel like they've had a romantic connection, or they're at least flirting with each other. There's obviously some interesting existential questions brought up about Loki questioning Owen Wilson or Mobius. I keep calling him Owen Wilson. Mobius's journey or character, or what his wants and needs are. And obviously that stuff's in play. And the big thing kind of culminates in where Loki does kind of figure out where he would hide in the past or the future, which is the moment before apocalyptic event. Which it was cool seeing them in. Was it the Himalayas or I can't remember
when they
where
went to Pompeii.
Pompeii, yeah. So
he starts saying you guys are all dead, and that was pretty funny. That was pretty.
It was fun, and it was great visually, and Owen Wilson even,
the chemistry was great. Yeah,
it was. Yeah. It was great. Let's real quick sidestep. I love the meme. Every time this happens, anything pop culture happens, we get great memes. But I feel like we get the best memes from these Marvel movies, like Falcon Winter Soldier and WandaVision, and now Loki. We have some of the greatest memes coming out.
What is the Loki meme that's been hit?
Well, just Owen Wilson, get this man a jet ski and stuff like that. These great little things. They're fantastic.
Yeah. I agree.
But it all culminates into, it looks like the future, 2000, I can't remember, 50 or something like this, where this female Loki variant is hiding there, and it turns out it's a trap for the TVA, and she's setting off these time bombs that can go off at once. And at the very end of the episode, Loki jumps through. And it kind of gives you the sense that Loki, he could be turning bad, at least from the TVA's perspective, but I don't think for 1 second he's doing anything nefarious by jumping to the portal. I think it's more of I'm trying to track down. There you are. Now you're in focus.
I was like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah, no, I was watching it. I'm sure his main reasoning, and at least he'll explain to Mobius, is I was trying to get her. She was going through the portal, and it was our last chance sort of situation. So.
Oh, sure.
That was more me. I've seen. Oh, yeah.
No, I agree, and I think. I honestly think whatever the consequences of this, they're still going to need Loki's help, right?
Right.
To clean whatever up. So I'm not worried too much on that. I do think, though, honestly, my big theory here, and it's one, what kind of what the ultimate result of this could be is there's some deep possible comic connections with Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom with the Timekeepers even. At one point, one of the Timekeepers was named Immortus. Who also went by Kang the Conqueror at one point. and we have been, there's been a lot of rumors that Kang the Conqueror could be the next kind of Thanos level threat in the MCU.
He will be in Ant-Man the Wasp, which is called Quantumania.
He will be in it. We know that for sure.
He is the villain, and the guy who's in Lovecraft. The guy who's in Lovecraft Country is the main guy, and that is Kang the Conqueror. And it is heavily rumored we will see Kang in this show. Yeah. So, and obviously him, being at one point a part of the Timekeepers connects him directly to it. I know in the comics he's like, it's speculated like he was actually a descendant of Doctor Doom because he comes from kind of an alternate history Earth. And so like there's obviously deep connect. He fights the Fantastic Four and the Avengers in the comics, kind of in big moments. So it feels like we could definitely be leaning towards that. Now I still think there's a real possibility that that's still like the precursor to the Secret Wars stuff. That's kind of like the Avengers, Loki level threat in Avengers 2012. Or who knows, maybe it's like Doctor Doom and then him, and for them, him then, and then Doctor Doom and then Secret Wars stuff. I don't know. Well, Doctor Doom is Secret Wars, I guess. So he's like the last Secret Wars. I mean, there's been multiple Secret Wars events happen. So yeah. I mean, it just, to me, that's just so exciting because it feels like the other thing about this show is that it's like deep nerdy shit lore. You know what I mean? This is like, I know Marvel has been for a while taking these obscure characters like, the Guardians of the Galaxy and these people that no one knew about, outside of just comic fans, and making them household names. But this feels like it's reaching even deeper into like the well of nerddom in lore and comics. Like we're getting now into like, I mean, like, in the comics, like this has sold to do, like this is like creation mythos at times, like the Timekeepers, and he who remains is who apparently like in the comics created the Timekeepers, and that his name is He Who Remained. Like he kind of created the timeline, the universe, however you want to think about it. So it's like this is getting into like creation mythos for the MCU, which is just super cool to me. And I mean, it doesn't get any deeper than this. I mean, this is the bottom of the well. I mean, in terms of like MCU or just even Marvel Comics lore, when you start getting the Timekeepers, you start getting to the Eternals, you start getting into like, I can't think of the name. Maybe it is an Eternal, but like the big head that's in Guardians of the Galaxy 1, where it's called Nowhere, that planet. Yeah. All like when you start getting that far back, like Ego, that kind of stuff, and that it doesn't go farther than that. Like you start seeing the Watchers and that kind of stuff. I mean, they're fixing to. I mean, they'll have a plethora of stories to tell forever. But if they start going beyond that, I think they will either have to make up their own stuff or whatever, because they had
and redo things in a different way almost.
But they have hit the barrier of going back. I mean, clearly we're hitting the dawn of time here. But no, I think you're right. I think 100% Kang the Conqueror. I know a lot of 100% on this show. I've been wrong multiple times with WandaVision and stuff like that. I think it's a good chance we'll see Kang the Conqueror in this. I don't think the Timekeepers are alive or around. I don't even know if, I think Owen Wilson, it's almost like, I think all those people were probably not even maybe indoctrinated, or maybe like, it's kind of weird that why adopt a 19 human?
They're almost kind of enslaved. I feel like it almost feels like a sense of like they can't escape, or like they are like he only exists there, and they they never leave, and they only, it doesn't seem like they go home anywhere. I mean, they kind of always.
But it's also interesting. But it's like, I mean, here's other just questions on top of my head. Why like a 1950s, 1960s aesthetic for the hub that controls all the time? Right. Why humans? Why not any aliens in there? Why? You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's all valid.
I mean, like, is it because, and even then, like you would say, well, maybe it's whoever's in the TVA.
It adapts to them.
Yeah, but Loki's not a human. He's a Asgardian. He looks like a human, but he's around all kinds of crazy creatures and stuff.
He really wouldn't have any reference for the 1950s Americana, probably.
Yeah, other than
Not
being
much.
DB Cooper in season
Right, yeah,
one,
exactly.
which is
exactly.
fucking incredible.
That was hilarious. That was
So, yeah, I mean,
hilarious.
yeah, we do know that, like, based on even the first epilogue or first prologue for Thor 1, that as Guardians come down to Earth and they're worshipped as gods and that they're in human history, they're just not like doing godlike things typically. So we do know, and it was nice to kind of like in that moment, nice to know that Loki had been to Earth and that he had been messing around with stuff, and that felt good. But yeah, I mean, a lot of things are being asked here, and I am curious to see where it goes. I don't even know if, like, I think what you're saying is this Loki variant. I don't even know if she is the main bad guy. I think it could be.
I know
Kang the
exactly. Right, or who knows? I mean, there to me, there's a real chance we get a very direct, non-subtle Fantastic Four setup reference something in this show. You know what I mean? It feels like, it's been announced long enough ago, and like there's been all these rumblings with these other shows. And again, because of the whole Timekeeper connection to Kang, his connection to the Fantastic Four, to Doctor Doom, it just seems like this would be a great time to even just name drop someone. You know what I mean?
I don't think even though I was convinced with WandaVision, maybe I was just too hurt by that. I don't think we'll have think we'll have a reference to the Fantastic Four other than maybe something like Doctor Doom. Even then, I don't know why we would need to see Doctor Doom yet.
I don't know if you see him. Maybe you hear him.
Maybe, but he doesn't. I mean, like, he definitely. I don't know.
They're probably going to do
in
an
the mystic
origin
arts
for him, right? They're going to do an
alchemy
origin for him, I would assume.
Yeah, I see him appearing more in like Black Panther 2 versus this, where he's like leading Latveria.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And there's Namor.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But I do see like Kang the Conqueror. I feel like that is our best first chance to see him. But then the two tee up Ant-Man and the Wasp, or at least just like or a reference to him, I could see. Because like to me, whenever the Timekeepers, the three of them are back there, I was immediately looking for Kang the Conqueror, like trying to see which one looked the most like Kang the Conqueror, and they obviously look pretty similar to what he looks like in the comics. Yeah. Not completely exact, but pretty close. Just the way, like the structure of like the head mounts and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. One thing I think of is like what happens to this Loki after. Let's say he wins. Let's say he wins. Like,
I mean, I think there's a good chance this is the last time we see Loki until the sequel or main event or something. Yeah. I mean, it's sad. I mean, I don't want that to be because I love Tom Hiddleston. I mean, I'd love him to be in Thor: Love and Thunder still. I don't think we've heard. I mean, that's filming right now. I think we would probably be aware of it unless it's, probably just a cameo.
Yeah. It's officially finished filming, and Taika was asked about it, and obviously he's not going to say the truth if it was happening, but he did say that has played out in the previous movies, and we're looking at different things now.
Which isn't wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, every movie with Thor has been the brother thing.
Well, then they've kind of completed that arc.
They did. Like he died for Thor. I mean,
and he yeah, exactly. He came around. He was theirs again, and he died. And
which kind of begs the question. Then I ultimately want to ask is, what's his ultimate other than just having fun? And we're getting another show with Loki. Like we saw Loki go from bad to good. Is he? What's his? What is Marvel going to do with him different? I mean, other than using him as a vessel for information.
I mean, I could see him making some kind of act that is like maybe he sacrifices himself again in some other way, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he betrays them. Maybe he, I don't know. But him kind of his final kind of big action or moment of the series being, what sets off the rest of the, kind of threads that we're talking about with Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and stuff. I don't know. I mean, I could see him just playing a big role in whatever comes after, even if he dies in the process, being like, the reason this all started was because of Loki kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to his credit, he is what brought the Avengers together. Maybe he's what brings the next phase of Avengers together again.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, exactly. I mean, like, or maybe he's what brings the next threat to the Avengers, kind of like he is what lets Kang know about Earth. Like he is the one that makes Kang aware of Earth and the superheroes there, and makes him feel the need he has to go conquer it or whatever,
Yeah, I mean, there's a version there where he's like, you know what, I saw what good boy Loki, what he gets, and he gets death. So maybe I'm gonna
Exactly.
double down. You know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I could see that.
Huh. I mean, it does seem like, obviously he was saying it out loud and he probably at least had ambitions for it before he was finally humbled in episode 1. But he was kind of like, I'm going to be Lord of the timekeepers. So obviously,
Yeah.
so obviously he thought it at least one point. But I don't know. It is interesting. I feel like no matter how they do it, he goes full bad, he goes full good again. Like we are getting all these similar beats. The only big thing is, in Thor Ragnarok, he was still mischievous. He was still bad, but at least it did seem like he was turning a corner. And we got him for like 6 minutes as a good guy in Infinity War, like a full blown good guy.
Yeah,
but that's so like maybe that's what I'm saying. Like maybe they make him a good guy indefinitely, and you get more of that we really didn't get beforehand. That would be the most different thing I'd see we get.
Yeah,
that he's well,
I kind of. I mean, I feel like he is kind of a little bit already there. Like he, in some ways, has kind of not completely, but given up on some of his selfish goals because he feels like they're impossible to obtain in some ways now. Like he's kind of like, when he's like, is this the ultimate power in the universe when he's staring at that big TV screen with the timeline on it? It's kind of like he's kind of given up hope of being able to rule over everything or his glorious purpose. I don't know. And I feel like that's maybe what we're trying to figure out. And they're kind of stringing along is what is his new purpose now? What is he actually trying to get out of this? Is he just trying to not die, like get away and like just escape and get to live out his life somewhere? I mean, who knows?
Well, I mean, you brought up that actually sparked something in my head is him trying to figure out his purpose is going to challenge Mobius's purpose. Because it does seem like he has wants and needs, obviously a jet ski. Obviously he's attracted to this judge and it's, I feel like there's way more to Mobius than meets the eye. And it could be them figuring out together in tandem, and who knows, maybe we'll get a season 2 of Loki where he's just fixing time.
There's
stuff.
No way. I mean, I'd love it,
so.
but I just don't see it.
I
don't think we're getting season 2s of like any of the shows. I think they're one-offs.
It's possible.
But I think we'll keep getting one-offs. I think we'll keep getting like it'll just be next year. It'll be maybe we'll get a Doctor Strange series at some point after Doctor Strange 2, or something like that.
What's and before we end this, we're almost done. What do you want out of the show? Like what answers do you want? I guess you just kind of want overall big picture stuff, or
I mean, I want to kick off what's next. I want it to be kind of revealed, like what the next kind of. I mean, I want the Thanos moment where we see him, or like he says, "I'll do it. Fine, I'll do it myself," or something like like that kind of thing where it's like, okay, this is the inciting incident of the next big long-term story, big picture story. I mean, that's what I want. And I know we're not going to get all the information, but I feel like we're going to get maybe a pretty fair starting point, jumping off point for all that. And that's really what I'm hoping for.
I obviously, yes, I want the big picture, big bad to come in. I want to see the fun stuff, but now that we are dealing with, timelines and different multiverses, even though I know No Way Home is going to be showing this, is going to give us that itch. I know Multiverse of Madness is going to give us an itch. It almost feels like because those two are coming that they would want to kind of save those kinds of surprises for those movies. But I still think there's an opportunity here to still give us some of that kind of stuff to kind of tee those up. I'm
not sure though, because if that is what No Way Home is about, I mean, the trailers are going to at least hint at it. There's no way the trailers won't hint at some of what's going on when we finally get a trailer.
I think they will.
Right. I feel like what I'm hoping is instead of just saving surprises for those movies, they're setting things up so then those movies, they can just do like awesome legwork, kind of like just dig deep into these concepts and tell interesting stories within this without having to set things up for, future movies and stuff. Like it feels like a series is a good place to do that. And I hope what it is like this kind of opens the barrel. It's like multiverse stuff. And then like right after this series, we get the No Way Home trailer. And it's like, yep, here's where we're seeing that playing out next in Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like that's my hope.
On point. I think you're on point. I mean, Sony typically releases trailers way in advance. I mean, they released a trailer for Far From Home during Endgame. And it was like, hey, here's spoilers for Endgame.
And when is Comic-Con?
The big like CDSC or
SDCC
Comic Con. Typically it falls in like July, August area.
July
September.
23rd, July 25th.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to be too many weeks after the end of Loki.
I don't think, I mean, it's possible, but really Marvel has really kind of stayed away from Comic-Con.
Yeah, well, okay, but they had their thing. What's that Disney thing
it's called Disney, not Disney Expo or Disney.
It's Disney XD? No.
It's called some D23.
D23.
Yeah,
yes.
But those typically happen later, like October, November kind of area. And I mean, bet your ass you're going to see Thor, Love and Thunder there. You're going to see definitely teases for you'll probably will see maybe some more Spider-Man No Way Home then. But no, I mean,
absolutely.
I guess the thing I guess I'm trying to hit at is I wonder I guess my question here is then, do you think we'll see some other alternate version characters but played by the actors that we already know? Like, do you think we'll see like Chris Hemsworth as a different Thor? Like, that's what I'm kind of asking.
I mean, I think it's possible. If we see any of that stuff, I think it'll be like flash frame almost level things, like just montagey or, kind of thing where we're not actually sitting in any of those places very long. That's my guess.
I kind of feel like, and maybe it's because this is a show and they're stretching their proper, not thin, but they have other movies happen with these characters and actors are expensive.
Right.
Like this is the show where like they are dealing with multiverse things, and you think that because that thing is so big and broad that they would want to at least show you the possibilities with that, like within the tools of the MCU. But maybe they won't. Maybe they'll do what they're doing and recast actors and recast whatever,
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. Anyway, how can our listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into us at bit.ly/241mail. There, let us know what your theories are, where exactly this is all going to play out, and what's the deal with Lady Loki. What's her deal? Just tell me her deal. So bit.ly/241mail.
And if you can't hit us up at our Bit.ly, of course, you can comment in the comment section below on YouTube, youtube.com/241studios, the place where we recommend that you consume all the content. And if you can't hit us up there, hit us up at 241studios.com and find all the cool and crazy things we have releasing each and every week. I do want to say next week is our big episode 80, and we have a special guest, Jess Carson, writer of The Flash. She will be on to talk about what it's like to be in the writer's room and how she got there. And it's a great conversation, and we look forward to you all to hear it. Daniel, it was a pleasure talking about Loki. I'm very excited for episode 3 this upcoming week.
And let me just say, it's really nice to have a midweek show. Like, I'm really enjoying this Wednesday night kind of present midweek. It's like, oh wow, the week's halfway over, and now you get Loki. You know what I mean? Like I know we're used to Fridays and stuff like that, but it's just kind of like, it almost makes me remember like what it used to be like watching TV, like as a kid when cable was a thing, and you had to wait to every Wednesday or Tuesday for Lost to come on or whatever.
The only downside to it is that it's like I know it comes out Wednesday, like basically Tuesday night, and I'm like, I want to watch it first thing Wednesday morning, but it's just kind of harder to do that than Wednesday. Then it's easier to do it Wednesday night for me anyway. Yeah. And so I'm like, it's like, I don't want to suffer a whole day and not watch this show versus like, I know it's premiering at 7:00 at night on a Wednesday, like in the old days kind of thing.
Sure. True.
And I think they're doing that primarily because like example, Black Widow's open up pretty soon, and they're going to kind of save those Fridays for theaters now.
Well, so and it's just generating that weekly conversation. Right. Like, and it's like, there's something Marvel happening more days. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we're not too far in the near future of having multiple Marvel shows per week, kind of like alternating, like Monday night, Wednesday night kind of like releases, who knows?
Man, the world we live in, I'm super pumped.
We're lucky.
All right. We're very lucky. Anyway, my name is Donovan Thompson.
I am Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.
Thank you.